On this edition of The Best Times, we examine the progress of the Plough Foundation's Aging Initiative. You'll meet a former corporate executive who has found a second career as a chaplain and author. And we'll tell you the warning signs of heart attacks. Funding for The Best Times is provided by the Plough Foundation, striving to do the greatest good by helping the greatest number of people since 1964. Additional funding is provided by the members of WKNO. Thank you. Hello, I'm Chris Hardaway. Welcome to this edition of The Best Times, a series that looks at life after 50. In 2014, the Plough Foundation focused its attention on issues affecting our aging population in Memphis and Shelby County, seeking grant proposals from organizations that could address these issues. One of their major areas of focus was elder abuse. The Plough grant has enabled the creation of a coordinated response team with the police, prosecutors, and social service agencies working together to stop elder abuse. The foundation also focused on aging in place initiatives designed to keep our older citizens in their homes for as long as possible. The Plough grants are producing aging in place specialists and helping qualifying citizens modify their homes to meet their aging needs. Through the No Hungry Senior Project, the Plough Foundation's grantees are identifying seniors who are food insecure and delivering them life-sustaining meals. In total, the Plough Foundation has awarded over $12 million in grants to nonprofit organizations, including WKNO and this program. Tonight, I sit down with Mike Carpenter and Katie Midgley of the Plough Foundation to get an update on the progress that has been made thus far. Well, let's talk about the work that is being done, the status of that. And of course, there are two or three major areas of focus of the Aging Initiative. Let's start with elder abuse, which was one of the big ones. Elder abuse, which is largely a hidden crime, as we discovered on this show when we did the segment, the fact that only 1 out of 23 cases is actually reported, and even that number is questionable. We just don't know. How has the grant enabled agencies to tackle this almost invisible issue?
We finally, and I think for the first time in this community, when elder abuse occurs, we have a coordinated response to make sure that that senior who needs help gets it, and that they get it in a timely manner, and that it is a complex but comprehensive number of services that they can receive.
It's bringing together a number of different organizations.
A number of different organizations, including government, like law enforcement, the District Attorney's Office, the RISE Foundation, Meritan, which used to be Senior Services, is helping us with housing, the Aging Commission, Memphis Area Legal Services, Community Legal Center, and others are all working together to make sure that someone who needs help is getting it in timely fashion. That can be housing, if they need a safe, secure place to stay to get away from an alleged perpetrator. That can be medical care if they need it for physical abuse or something like that. That can be conservatorship or public guardian legal assistance if they need it as well. So we're making sure that that rapid response and that intervention is there for our most vulnerable who need the assistance.
How well is the coordinated response team working?
We think it's working very well at this point. It's interesting that when we began, that a lot of these agencies didn't really know one another or what resources that each organization had to provide. Now, after almost a year into it, they know one another on a first-name basis. They know who to call. They have each other's cell phones. They're on call all the time and sharing that information back and forth.
Now, the program's been up and running for a few months. Are you seeing tangible results?
Sure, we are seeing tangible results, and some of those, for example, we are increasing the percentage of cases that are being prosecuted for elder abuse. So when working with the DA's office, because of the information they're getting from victims advocates, that they're getting from the police department, and because of their concerted efforts on these cases, they're able to, in many cases, upcharge these to elder abuse, whereas in the past they've not been able to do that. So we're seeing an increase in prosecution. We are seeing certainly an increase in training in terms of the number of individuals that have been trained on these issues and made aware that what to do, and that we're all mandatory reporters. We have both quantitative and qualitative data. Quantitative meaning that we've got hard numbers that show that, for example, for every dollar the Plough Foundation has invested, we've been able to leverage almost $9 in other resources to help these victims. And on the qualitative side, we can say that we've had more than 100 clients in the short time that we've been working, and we've been able to close more than 50 of those cases, knowing that the victim or the client is in a better situation than they were when they came into the CREA system.
Let's turn our attention to the Aging in Place initiative. Your own research, I think, revealed that 94% of Shelby County seniors said they wanted to live in their homes for as long as possible. That's only natural. What success are you having with the Aging in Place initiative?
I think we're having great success. First of all, the need for this program has been immensely validated. When we put out the numbers and information about the program, the first day that people were able to call Habitat for Humanity to sign up for services, so many seniors called that it shut their phone lines down. So that was said to us that yes, this was a grant that was definitely needed.
Now this is, remind me, it's a 2-year or 3-year grant period on the Aging Place?
It is a 2-year grant.
Mm-hmm. What do you hope to have achieved at the end of 2 years? Because you mentioned the need. The need is so great.
Right.
The dollars from the Plough Foundation will only serve just so many.
Right.
Where do you hope to be at the end of that 2-year period?
Well, I certainly hope that we've enabled a certain number of seniors to age in place safely and securely in their homes. As Mike alluded to, the data collection here is also going to be extremely important. We're trying to figure out if aging in place and these home modifications improve the health status of seniors and keep them from going into the hospital because of falls or things like that. We're also looking from an evaluation standpoint to see if these home modifications improve socialization. Now that your home is improved, have you had more people over? How did you feel about your home before? How do you feel about it now? Has it changed your behaviors in the community? To my knowledge, this is one of the first times these kind of questions have been asked. And so I'm kind of a research nerd, I'll admit it, but I'm really excited about finding out more and digging in to see really what this construction does to improve the life of seniors. And we hope to share that out with other communities and with other funders in the hope that they'll see what a difference this kind of investment can make.
Let's move from shelter to food with the No Hungry Senior Project, which certainly has an important goal of trying to feed those seniors who are food insecure. They don't know where that next meal is coming from. That brings together also a number of different agencies. How well is that working right now? What progress are you making?
Well, the No Hungry Senior Project had a goal of reaching 350 clients by January of 2016, and they served their first meal on June 29th of this year and have already reached that 350 client goal with really out any advertising or marketing or awareness. So just through word of mouth, the need is so great that they've reached that number. As you point out, it is a collaboration of about 8 different organizations, including 2 major hospitals, Baptist and Methodist. The University of Memphis is involved, Catholic Charities, the Food Bank, and a number of other entities that are a part of this.
Where do you hope to be with this program at the end of the grant period? And again, the question about sustainability, because it's so important. You're serving a limited number of people, again, and the need is greater. So Where do you think you'll be at the end of the grant period, and where do you want this to go after the grant ends?
So we hope to, if we reach our goals, hope to be at 3,000 clients at the end of the grant period, which should total somewhere around 1 million meals over a 3-year period that get delivered in some form or fashion. Some of those meals are coming through the hospital, so if a patient is going to be discharged and the hospital social worker knows that individual is food insecure, they will leave with a box of food. And one thing that we hope to do, that we've talked about from the beginning, is to connect the No Hungry Senior program to the CREA program, so that when you have individuals who are delivering boxes or delivering meals to the home, they know what to look for in the event in relation to elder abuse. So they know the kinds of things that might raise a red flag and might prompt them to make a report and have somebody come out and do a well check on that individual to make sure that they are not only not food insecure, but also not being abused in some way. So we want those programs to be able to collaborate together in the future as well.
The Plow Foundation has made a substantial investment of some $12 million
Correct.
in this aging initiative. What do you want Memphis and Shelby County to look like, its senior population, when the grant money has been spent and the programs are finished, in a sense, with their grant money? What do you want Memphis and Shelby County to be?
What we want it to look like when our grant dollars are spent is that we have 3 or 4 or 5 model programs that have additional funders, whether they be public, private, or combination, to sustain the work that we started, so that we can reach all of those that are in need, because the need is great and we are an aging population. 10,000 people a day turn 65. That's just, we're living longer, which is a good thing, but if you're in poverty already, or have lack access to health care or lack access to food, and you're living longer, it's a tough way, it's a tough existence. Beyond that, over time, I mean, we want to see a community that is more aware of its senior population, more senior friendly in terms of transportation and access, and also, you know, we've talked mostly about the downside of aging, but there are lots of people who are hitting 65 and in great health and have great minds, and who have something to offer the community but don't know where to plug in, and others aren't reaching out to them. And so that's something we'd like to see too, is that those individuals who are in good health and of sound mind are utilized for their talents and abilities.
I read this groundbreaking study recently that said that if you actually ask someone over 65 to volunteer, they're much more likely to. So just being intentional. When we think about mentorship programs, people that look like Mike and myself are asked to mentor a lot. We're very busy. He's raising kids. We're doing all sorts of things. How about our senior population? And connecting them with the youth of this community. The more caring, nurturing adults in a child's life, the better. So like Mike, I'd really love to see this age wave or silver tsunami utilized, connected, giving back, as they already are, but even more so.
Well, thank you both for being on The Best Times.
Thank you.
As we've seen many times on this show, starting a second career late in life isn't always easy, but sometimes amazing things can happen. Such is the case of Jack Conrad, a corporate executive who found a second career helping people cope with cancer and their own mortality. I'd like you to meet Jack Conrad. Reverend Jack Conrad is making the early morning rounds of cancer patients at Methodist Hospital in Germantown. Sometimes there's good news of someone going home. Sometimes sad news of a patient with only days left to live. Reverend Conrad visits with some of the patients, giving them a smile, some words of encouragement, and a blessing.
His gentle manner and calming voice don't seem to fit with a man who, for 35 years, was a corporate executive in the manufacturing industry. How did he go from making railroad parts to making people comfortable in their last hours on Earth?
It was Labor Day about 3.5 years ago, and I was building a swing set / fort for my grandkids here in Memphis. My wife came out with my 2 youngest grandsons and my new puppy, and they got laughing and playing and giggling. And I heard something in my heart just say, "Why do you want to miss this?" We lived up in Louisville, Kentucky at the time. And so on the way back up, I told my wife, I said, let's build a home down here. I had 35 years of, I was tired of business. And I was really tired of the aspect of the way in which corporations treat people. There's things I don't particularly care for. And I had experienced too many of those things over my career. So probably if in the depth of the honesty, there was something that I wanted to change. And so as it turned out, I looked and chaplaincy found me. And I never even thought about being a chaplain, never did.
Jack Conrad's journey to his second career was different than most. His was a calling, something he felt with his heart. But the wisdom he's gained from reinventing his life can be valuable to anyone who's arrived at one of life's crossroads.
I've had so many friends that have been devastated by loss of jobs. And it's not uncommon for guys in their 50s to wind up going, now what am I going to do with myself? Because you come to that particular point where you're making a reasonable salary, and if they let you go, then that's a good thing for the corporation, and on and on and on. And this is not an uncommon type of a scenario. Certainly a little bit different in my particular case because I had a calling to something else. But I've learned the lessons that I'm not defined by what I do. I'm defined by who I am. Every last one of us, looking at our particular status, will think that if we had more, we'd be better off, and that's just not true. Who we are makes a much more difference than what we think we have. It's not security against death. It's not security that life is going to be fair. It just isn't. But if we're secure in who we are, and we can imagine ourselves doing different things, oh Lord, what a great place this would be.
Jack has started a third career as an author. He's published Living Before Dying, a collection of stories and reflections from his time as a hospice chaplain.
The doctor comes in to you and says, I'm sorry, Chris, but you got about 6 months. I mean, after you get past the shock, which is always comes, you get to decide what to do with that 6 months. And I've watched people decide to live a full life for 6 months. And I've watched people decide to die that day.
This is a certification class for hospice volunteers. Jack is one of the teachers, and much of what he communicates to the students comes from the pages of his book. Stories, like the one about a World War II veteran of the Battle of the Bulge, haunted by one horrible moment in a horrific war.
And at that particular time at the Battle of the Bulge, what they would do is the Germans would parachute soldiers that spoke perfect English, perfect American, in American uniforms, and then they would direct units into ambushes. And they were despised and hated by the GIs at the time. And his colonel called him over and said, we just caught 7 of those Germans that were doing that. And he says, yes, I know. And he says, they never came through this camp. He says, what do you mean they never came through the camp? He says, there's no records. There'll be nothing. This little man, tears were streaming down his eyes at that time. And he said, Chaplain, they took him over into a field, and I must have heard 100 rounds of ammo go off. And I heard screams and yells. And I did nothing. And he started to sob. He just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. This little man had borne that for 50 years. That sorrow, that sad, that feeling responsible in some sense, some way, for a human life being taken amongst a horrific situation in the Battle of the Bulge, and that was just a horrific battle. But he felt still responsible, and he had to let that go. And he died the next week. but I think and I'd like to believe that he died at peace.
Reverend Jack Conrad lives with death every day. But between the moments of sadness and sorrow, he finds the inspiration that guides his life, and his words are wisdom for us all.
I want to live life, I want to feel it, I want to taste it, I want to experience it in all the glory that God's given it, and never take anything for granted.
Recently, the Centers for Disease Control reported that nearly 3 out of every 4 adults has a heart that is statistically older than the rest of their body. For men, the average was about 8 years. For women, about 5.5 years. 1 in 4 deaths in this country is a result of heart disease, many of them heart attacks. But there are some simple things you can do to lessen your risk. Maybe it's time to listen to your heart. What is a heart attack?
The heart gets blood through the coronary arteries. So these are small, teeny tiny vessels, smaller than this pancreas. The coronary arteries are really small. And these arteries get the blood to the muscle of the heart. When these arteries get blocked, you have a heart attack. And the heart attack basically is a muscle damage to the heart muscle.
What causes an arterial blockage?
So they're extremely important for a healthy heart to have the coronary arteries to be open and patent. What can block it? A thrombus, a clot, plaque that builds up. It's like you clog your pipe. What clogs the pipe? Back again, smoking, smoking, smoking. Cholesterol, of course, other risk factors, genetics we talked about, but it's smoking, smoking, smoking.
What are the signs of a heart attack?
So the classic is that pain in the middle of the chest called angina pectoris, and usually it would radiate to the left arm. Usually it would go down the left arm, numbness. Along with this, shortness of breath. They're very hard to catch their breath. Nausea, they get sick in the stomach. They get sweaty. So these are the classic signs of a heart attack.
What is a silent heart attack?
It's a heart attack that does not present with the classic signs and symptoms that I was just describing earlier. The patient would not have that typical heaviness in the middle of the chest. Actually, they can present with indigestion. And that's the most common simulator, or the silent heart attack simulator, that worries me a lot. Sometimes very vague symptoms, like just feeling a little sick, having flu-like symptoms, and you're not sure what that is, feeling tired. And again, extremes of age, women, diabetics, where they have some nerve endings problems, so they don't have the typical pain that a usual person would have.
Who is at risk?
If a patient comes and tells me, my dad died at the age of 30 or 35 from a heart attack, that's definitely a risk factor. But there is nothing we can do about this. High blood pressure, that's part of the risk factors, genetics. Also partly controlled by diet, but partly just you're born with this. You have to work on it and work with your doctor. Now, diabetes obviously is another very important risk factor. Having said all that, the most important is smoking, smoking, smoking. And this is in our hands. We can control smoking. I can quit smoking and it's gonna help a lot. If you combine smoking with family history of heart disease or genetics, it's a bad combo.
The steps to preventing a heart attack are simple. Quit smoking. Know your numbers, your body mass index and metabolic index. Exercise. Eat a healthy, low-fat diet. Drink alcohol in moderation. Avoid stress whenever possible. And laugh a lot. The simple act of laughing will cause the lining of the coronary arteries to expand. For more information on heart health, go to the website of the American Heart Association. Want more information about life after 50? Go to our website, wkno.org/besttimes, and send us your feedback and story ideas to besttimes@wkno.org. That's all for this edition of The Best Times. Please join us next week for more stories about life after 50. Until then, I'm Chris Hardaway. Thanks for watching. Good night. Funding for The Best Times is provided by the Plough Foundation, striving to do the greatest good by helping the greatest number of people since 1964. Additional funding is provided by the members of WKNO. Thank you.